Good morning from RSBN Live in Auburn, Alabama, of course, the friendliest village on the plains. I'm Robert McNeely as we look at a live shot of our beautiful White House a day after St. Patrick's Day celebrations. And doesn't the lawn look like the Emerald Isle, the nice green coming out at this time of year? As Thursday will welcome in spring and a renewal not only for mind, body, and spirit, but for the United States of America, nearly 60 days into a brand new administration, and what a relief it has been for the American people. Today we await Vice President J.D. Vance as he addresses the American Dynamism Summit. So the dynamic aspect of President Trump, of Vice President J.D. Vance, really the Republican leadership across the country on full display. A party never united so much in its efforts to make America great again and to solve really core issues and problems on the state and local levels and also the federal levels. We want to thank our sponsors here at Right Side Broadcasting Network Live, Colonial Metals Group. This is such a great option as you look towards tax day. How do you prepare for retirement? Are you about to send one of your children off to college? You know, those big investments that happen in life. So I have here the 2025 Complete Guide to Gold and Silver. And you can see here, thanks to CEO Paul Stone, who comes regularly on this network to talk about really the importance of gold and silver in your portfolio. Gold up by 840% since the year 2000, up over 7,000% since 1971 when we went off of the gold standard during the Nixon administration. This is your best hedge against inflation. So scan that QR code now, or go to freegoldguide.com/RSBN to look at all of your options to protect yourself and your family against the difficulties of inflation. It's the way to go. Gold, silver, precious metals. You might have many properties, assets, but also using that 401k or IRA to roll that into these tangible metals. There's really no better decision out there. So freegoldguide.com/RSBN. Scan the QR code now. We'd like to thank Colonial Metals Group for sponsoring us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. And we are grateful to all of you as well for tuning in on this beautiful morning as we await comments from the Vice President. And hasn't it been great to watch J.D. Vance in action? Because seemingly every time he makes really a dynamic speech, he ends up enacting the policy later on that day. And rarely does a leader have the opportunity not only to talk on theories or principles, but actually put it into practice. The most obvious for me was in the Oval Office when he pushed back against President Zelensky of Ukraine. And it was the art of the deal in action. Earlier in the day, he spoke to a Catholic breakfast regarding different issues not only happening in the culture, but throughout the country, specifically on policy and what the Trump administration was working to do. Namely, the idea that you might not agree with everything we are doing, but here's why we're enacting things like securing the border, like making sure fentanyl is not pouring over and poisoning our children. So J.D. Vance really being that second in command, able to bring many people to this great populist big tent MAGA movement, change hearts and minds. But he said at that breakfast, if you don't agree with us, the door is not slammed shut on you. Please tell us what your concerns are. The president and I want to listen. And it is so true. Even Caroline Leavitt echoing her words from her first White House press conference in the press briefing room, that the best spokesperson for this administration is the commander-in-chief himself, Donald Trump. And she does pretty gosh darn well herself, batting 1,000 against those who would seek to create fake news or even push back on an administration for doing such amazing things in this short period of time. I got to witness it myself this weekend as President Trump freely opens himself up to the press for tough questions. He wants the people to know what is happening at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue and is accountable to those who elected him. So it's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's morning again in America. And here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, our goal is to bring you that unbridled access to everything President Trump, Vice President Vance, and also the 119th Congress on this beautiful March 18th, just a couple of days away from springtime. And how exciting is it to have that renewal, that rebirth that happens every year? It's already really beautiful down south, but our thoughts and prayers, especially with those 40 people roughly who lost their lives in 6 states over the course of the last few days from multiple tornadoes. This really stretched from Mississippi all the way up through Virginia, throughout the southeast, and we were fortunate enough to miss some of that weather just being down in West Palm Beach, where it was quite beautiful. But again, our thoughts and prayers with those who lose so much in these natural disasters. And President Trump, his team, looking at all of that, making sure that they can assist from a federal response to what the states might as well be enacting as we are speaking here at the 9 o'clock hour Eastern. And if you're just joining us now, good morning. Live from Right Side Broadcasting Network in our studios in Auburn, Alabama. I'm Robert McNeely. It's a joy to be with you today, as it is now nearly 60 days since President Trump took the oath of office on a brisk, wintry day on January 20th in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. And since then, it has been a nonstop barn burner, really getting great policies done for the American people, promises made and promises kept. And a couple of really big items in that agenda forthcoming likely today. President Trump said on Air Force One, as he spoke to the out-of-town press pool, I was there for that, he said that he is going to have a conversation today with President Putin of Russia. They are looking to finalize this peace agreement that has already been agreed to by the Ukrainian government for a 30-day ceasefire. Now, to bring you up to speed on everything, the Russian military is surrounding the Ukrainian military as we speak. Some of that fighting has commenced, but President Putin has said in the last several hours that peace is the goal. He just ultimately has to iron things out with President Trump. This was all agreed to with the host country, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, also, of course, Steve Witkoff, the mission envoy to the Middle East, who's done an extraordinary job saving hostages like Mark Fogel in Russia, but really traveling all over the world, just as Marco Rubio is, in order to make sure that peace is going to happen. And Marco Rubio, our great Secretary of State, perhaps the finest in a very long time, really telling the fake news over the last couple of days, especially those Sunday morning shows, how the struggle for peace is worth it. You have to dialogue with people. You have to break bread with people. They ultimately have to come to the table, and both sides want to because of the leadership of President Donald Trump. And of course, we've heard from the far left lunatics about Russia, Russia, Russia. Of course, we know that hoax. Maybe some of them should be investigated for the agreements they have taken with the Ukrainian government. How about Hunter Biden, who no longer has Secret Service detail, according to President Trump on True Social? We know that he received money from the Moscow mayor in Russia. We know that Burisma, the bellied up energy organization that was propped up by government money, why was Hunter Biden put on the top of that board? Perhaps access to his father, the then vice president of the United States. The corruption knows no ends, but we do know here with the MAGA movement that President Trump has literally put himself in the line of fire in order to make the world safe again and peace forthcoming. We know that will happen. It's just a tough road to get there, but we'll be watching that closely as President Trump will be speaking over the phone with President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, today. And then also yesterday, President Trump visiting the Kennedy Center to detail the release of those Kennedy files from our intelligence agencies. So an exciting time today. So stick with us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network for not only the address of the Vice President coming up momentarily, but also any breaking news. Thank you to our sponsors here at Right Side Broadcasting Network Live. We love thefreetrumpbook.com, brought to you by the extraordinary team of Mike Huckabee, the ambassador to Israel. These guides here are just fantastic. I have here with me the Kid's Guide to American Greatness, because sadly, it depends, even a parochial school, a public school, maybe even homeschool, whatever your option is, sometimes the young patriots at home are not learning about the greatness of this country. Nearly 250 years of freedom, unbridled by anyone, unequaled, in fact. I just turned to a page here detailing the Civil War and everything that took place with that horrible, bloody conflict. And Abraham Lincoln's call on Americans to look back at remaining united and an emancipated people. Just the strong foundations, not only of a melting pot that we are, the diversity, not only in the color of our skin and our religious differences, but our willingness to adhere to natural law and to adhere to the founding documents of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, timeless values that led to women's suffrage and the civil rights movement. You really think about this movement with President Trump has really been on the shoulders of great movements in the past that said, no, we will draw a line in the sand. You will not move forward in abusing people's inalienable rights brought to them by God. And this details this right here for your American patriots, talking about World War I, World War II, the great American companies that spurred back the American economy out of the Depression. We are such an incredible nation, and it's worth sharing. As President Ronald Reagan once mentioned, that freedom is just but one generation away from extinction. Mike Huckabee and the team at freetrumpbook.com is making sure that that doesn't happen, that it is passed down to our posterity. So get yours now. And the best part of it, it's free. You only have to do shipping and handling. Get ahead of that Christmas shopping for your young ones at home, or that neighbor who is just not paying attention, who would rather just do the yard work on the weekends, maybe sit back, drink a beer, and watch sports. That's all good and dandy, but maybe they don't know about the foundations of this great constitutional republic. Why don't you give them a freetrumpbook.com today? And there's a live look of the sun shining on the east portico of the beautiful Capitol building. I just love that building in Washington, D.C. You might have caught us on that brisk, cloudy day just the other day announcing that we'd be joining President Trump over the weekend near Mar-a-Lago aboard Air Force One, but that Capitol building shining bright today as this Congress has been working diligently to pass President Trump's agenda. And you have to give credit where credit's due. Senator Chuck Schumer, the Democrat minority leader, has come under fire from the far left, the AOCs of the world who are attacking him, the Bernie Sanders of the world, those who are bought and paid for puppets that we now know thanks to amazing dialogue during some of these committee hearings for President Trump's cabinet. I think about RFK Jr. going back at Senator Bernie Sanders saying, hey, didn't all those big pharma corporations give you money for your election? And of course, Bernie Sanders did not want to talk about it. Well, I have to give credit where credit's due. Senator Chuck Schumer was able to push back at those Democrats who wanted to just shut down the government. And, Chuck Schumer said, I have to do what's right for the American people. Let's keep this government open as requested by President Trump. And they did that with H.R. 1968. And President Trump signed that into law, keeping the government open until September. And we will toss it now to a commercial break, but stick with us on the other side of this. We are awaiting Vice President J.D. Vance to speak at the American Dynamism Summit. I'm Robert McNeely. Stick with us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network Live.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat live show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
I hear every day about the products you all wish MyPillow carried. Well, guess what? We probably do. Slippers, bathrobes, pet beds, blankets, mattresses, sleepwear, loungewear, duvets, comforters, pot holders, aprons, oven mitts, and so much more. And they're all on sale. For example, get our best-selling standard MyPillows for only $14.98. Body pillows, $29.98. 6-piece bath towels or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase, $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bedsheet sets. Any size, any color, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And I've never done this before. When you spend $100 or more, you're going to get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
And welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network Live. Here's a live shot of the beautiful White House. We love that White House, that emerald green, beautiful grass that only springtime has a way of bringing in, seemingly. I hope you had a wonderful celebration at home with your loved ones for St. Patrick's Day, as well as March Madness coming up and spring just 2 days away, awaiting Vice President J.D. Vance to address the American Dynamism Summit, and it is dynamic. We are now living almost 60 days into common sense. Thank you, God. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you for everything that is President Trump and the MAGA movement. It's a very exciting time to be an American, which, you know, it always is. And we were able to sustain what was 4 years of really scary situations taking place, not only domestically, but abroad, because of an inept, incompetent, and really ideologically extreme, far-left Marxist administration. And as the curtain continues to really unveil itself, or even with the help of people like President Trump and Vice President Vance, as well as his extraordinary cabinet, it became very clear even over the weekend as we asked President Trump, and we'll throw up on socials as well, the fact that this auto pen controversy keeps coming about. A very scary situation that we've seen where it is seemingly the fact that President Biden's signature looked like it was printed on many executive orders, on pardons, on other documents. Looks very different than his actual signed signature, something that you would see maybe on the box of M&Ms that they give you if you visit the White House, or something on a memorandum of some sort. But usually when he is in there to sign something big or something large, it's his own pen. So we see how that will unveil itself. President Trump mentioning that it's not up to him whether or not what Joe Biden signed is now null and void, but rather something for the courts. And we will watch all of that here at Right Side Broadcasting Network Live, as we know this administration, we know exactly who is in charge every day, who is working around the clock for you, the American people, in order to make this great country even greater than it has been over the course of 250 years. And 2 hot button items today are going to be President Trump speaking with Vladimir Putin of Russia, looking to find that peace in the Russia-Ukraine conflict that really should have never happened. And it would not have happened if he was still in office when the invasion took place over 3 years ago. It's an undisputable fact that President Trump did not allow Putin to move an inch. All while you heard the Russia hoax and Crossfire Hurricane and the intelligence agencies' movement to discredit and ultimately take down a duly elected president of the United States. Well, now the investigators become investigated because we have a great Justice Department under the leadership of Attorney General Pam Bondi. And think about the FBI with Kash Patel. If it wasn't for Kash, we would not have known the depths of Crossfire Hurricane. We possibly would not have known that Hillary Clinton's campaign spied on President Trump before he was in office and his campaign at the Trump Tower in New York City. So you think of the depths of all this. President Trump visiting yesterday the Kennedy Center, just mentioning, and he's now chairman of the board of that great organization, very upset with the dilapidated nature and the expensive costs of keeping this iconic auditorium. So he said they're getting to work to streamline that, of course, perhaps with the assistance of Doge as well. But President Trump announcing yesterday, right near the bust of JFK in that beautiful corridor in the narthex of that auditorium, that the JFK files will be released today. So exciting for those people who just want truth and transparency. We know that Congresswoman Ana Paulina Luna of Florida leading a committee in order to find the secrets and those so-called conspiracy theories really of the last half century, because we know ever since President Trump has come onto the scene, a lot of these things were just that, theories. But then he got involved really bringing you, the American people, the access you deserve to your government. You elect them. You should know what's happening in your government. And President Trump, an advocate for truth and transparency at every level. So we await those files forthcoming today. We are also looking forward again to that discussion that President Trump will be having with the Russian President Vladimir Putin in regards to peace. We'll see where the Russian government is at. As Secretary of State Marco Rubio said late last week, the ball is now in Russia's court. Ukraine has agreed to the 30-day plea deal. It was all done in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and Secretary of State Marco Rubio granting thanks to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for being such gracious hosts in order to work towards peace. This affects many countries. This affects really geopolitical politics on 3 separate continents, whether it's Asia, Europe, of course, ultimately the United States. And with this new minerals deal and the excessive wheat that does come out of the Ukraine, President Trump has said that Vladimir Zelensky now is looking towards peace as well. So maybe he will come back to the White House, be able to actually have a grown-up discussion and not create the controversy that he did in the Oval Office just a few short weeks ago when Zelensky was so rude to President Trump and so rude to Vice President J.D. Vance. Well, they kindly asked him to leave and to come back when he's ready for peace, because it is true that the Ukrainian government does not hold the cards right now. They need the peace. They've agreed to it thus far. They are surrounded, their military, by Russian assets. And that's just the sad nature of all this. And really the tragedy of all of this, over 1.5 million Ukrainians and Russians dead. Many Polish and Belarusian residents also displaced. Just a sad scenario. And these cultures, these people are great people. We encountered many of them at CPAC this past year who are seeking and longing for freedom, who want that American dream for their country as well. Of course, we spoke to members of the European Parliament as well, who are working so hard for those values we hold near and dear to hearts in this movement here in America. And that's why we are excited to hear from J.D. Vance, the Vice President, today, as he addresses the American Dynamism Summit. That will be an exciting event for all to see, as this vice president has really been zeroed in on not only culture, but also theology, also really defending traditional roles, and especially not apologizing for being a traditional man in America today, to be proud, to get up early, to work hard, whatever your vocation is, to get your hands dirty peacefully and patriotically, to provide for your family, to love your wife, and to love your children, and to love God, ultimately. So it's so great to have a based millennial vice president, the third youngest, in fact, to hold the office. So it's an exciting time for this country as we look on this beautiful White House, on a beautiful Emerald Isle of that green springtime in our nation's capital. Thank you to angelpaste.com for sponsoring us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, the Miracle Cream. This is something you have to get. I've tried it myself. It will take away your dry skin in a matter of minutes, and you don't have to worry about this having chemicals. This is all non-GMO, vitamin B's, vitamin C's, good stuff for your skin to absorb, because some of the stuff out there might be effective, but then you read the ingredients and it's like, what am I putting on my skin? And that's going into my system. No need for that, because Angel Paste is Christian owned. They hire veterans, and they're based right here in the good old US of A in Spring, Texas, right off that Gulf of America. So they have many different options addressing the issue that you might be facing with your skin. So the Miracle Cream, of course, dry skin, good presentation, but how about the orange option? It's an immunity booster that you can have naturally. They also have a mosquito repellent, so get rid of those nasty sprays. You don't want to inhale things that can be chemicals and just bad for your skin, bad around the kids, bad around the pets at home. How about having a natural repellent that will make sure mosquitoes don't bother you as we get into the warmer months? So angelpaste.com, experience the miracle today. Thank you for sponsoring us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network Live. And we are roughly 20 minutes after the hour. A great split screen to live shots there of the nation's capital and the White House. It's a sunny day in Washington, D.C., and I know we've said it before, and we've had many of our guests mention it, but it is like Christmas every day with this new administration, so focused on the 20 promises that became part of the RNC agenda back in Milwaukee, Wisconsin last July. And that we are seeing great, incredible successes, especially the video of the worst of the worst. The Trende Aragua foreign terrorist organization being flown to El Salvador for detention, and of course the president of that great nation graciously accepting these individuals in order to relieve the stress of our own prisons and what we have gone through as a nation. And these people are, again, some of the worst, as Caroline Leavitt headlined yesterday, just the ugliness that took place over the course of the last 4 years, with people losing their lives, being raped and murdered. And some of these names will ultimately be released, but it's not in the interest of national security at the moment, nor the administration. But we saw the video of those individuals, and they did some real damage here in the United States, and they don't belong here. And something I just want to push back on, my understanding of the law, is that these planes were out of American airspace when this district judge just decided that he wanted illegal immigrants here in the United States. Did not make much sense, nor it's questioned that he even has the legal authority to stop the executive right and privilege to secure the border and remove illegal migrants. So President Trump doing what was right there. Of course, he mentioned, we actually have the vice president out early, so we'll toss that to the American Dynamism Summit featuring Vice President J.D. Vance addressing the crowd. We'll toss that there now.
Good morning, everybody. How we doing? It's great to be here. Thanks to everybody for having me today, in particular Ben and Mark. And I just got to say hello to Ben and Catherine backstage, but I know apparently Mark has the flu right now. So Mark, wherever you are, I think I had the same flu like a few weeks ago. It sucks, but I'm sure you'll get through it. and it's great to be with you all, and it's great to talk about the importance of American dynamism and what our administration is going to do to support so many of the country's most groundbreaking and compelling companies. I know that you guys are working hard every single day, and I think it's pretty good news, right, that as of a couple of months ago, you have an administration that's working with you and facilitating your hard work instead of making it harder to innovate, which is, I think, what the last administration did. Though, in defense of Joe Biden, he was asleep most of the time. I don't think he totally realized what he was doing, but certainly didn't make it easier. His administration did not for our innovators. Now, as some of you may have seen, and I talked about this with Ben backstage, I spoke at a conference in Paris last month where my message to a group of CEOs and foreign leaders was that we should embrace the future head on. We shouldn't be afraid of artificial intelligence, and that particularly for those of us lucky enough to be Americans, we shouldn't be fearful of productive new technologies. In fact, we should seek to dominate them, and that's certainly what this administration wants to accomplish. I suspect that most of you in this room are of like mind, and if you're not, I don't know why the hell you're at the American Dynamism Conference, but I received some pushback from people who are worried about the disruptive effects of AI. One journalist suggested the speech highlighted the tension between the, quote, techno-optimists and the populist right of President Trump's coalition. And today, I'd like to speak to these tensions as a proud member of both tribes. And let me put it simply. While this is a well-intentioned concern, I think it's based on a faulty premise. This idea that tech-forward people and the populists are somehow inevitably going to come to a loggerheads is wrong. I think the reality is that in any dynamic society, technology is going to advance, of course. And speaking as a Catholic, I think back to Pope John Paul II's opening lines of the encyclical Labora Mixarens, quote, "Through work, man must earn his daily bread and contribute to the continual advance of science and technology, and above all, to elevating unceasingly the cultural and moral level of the society within which he lives," end quote. Now, I quote the Holy Father not only because I'm a fan of his, but also because he rightly understood that in a healthy economy, technology should be something that enhances rather than supplants the value of labor. And I think there's too much fear that AI will simply replace jobs rather than augmenting so many of the things that we do. Now, in the 1970s, if you go back a little ways, many feared that the automated teller machine, what we call the ATM, would replace bank tellers. In reality, the advent of the ATM made bank tellers more productive, and you have more people today working in customer service in the financial sector than you had when the ATM was created. Now they're doing slightly different jobs, of course. Yes, they're doing more interesting tasks also, and importantly, they're making more money than they were in the 1970s. Now, when we innovate, we do sometimes cause labor market disruptions. That happens. But the history of American innovation is that we tend to make people more productive, and then we increase their wages in the process. And I think all of us believe that's a good thing. Now, after all, who would claim that man was made less productive by the invention of the transistor, or the metal lathe, or the steam engine? Real innovation makes us more productive, but it also, I think, dignifies our workers. It boosts our standard of living. It strengthens our workforce and the relative value of its labor. And as Americans, all of us should be particularly proud of our extraordinary heritage. I think it is American heritage of inventing things, and of our nation's status to this day as the world's foremost driver of research and development. But all of this, the role that technology plays in a labor market, and whether we greet innovative breakthroughs with excitement or with trepidation, depends on the purpose of our economic system in the first place. And I think this is where the populists have an important point. It should be no surprise that when we send so much of our industrial base to other countries, we stop making interesting new things right here at home. Look, for example, at shipbuilding. Now, if you go back to World War II, America constructed thousands of so-called Liberty ships to carry troops, cargo, and other things, building them at a pace of 3 ships every 2 days. 3 ships every 2 days. Now, we build about 5 commercial ships across an entire year in the United States of America. And as a result, the United States today accounts for 0.1%, 0.1% of global shipbuilding. China, on the other hand, now makes more commercial ships than the rest of the world combined. In fact, one of Beijing's state-owned firms built more commercial ships just last year than all of America has produced since the end of World War II. So, while we remain the leader in technology and innovation, I think there are troubling signs on the horizon. And I raise all this to ask, does this sound like a regime, I'm speaking of China, will pass up on the opportunity to use AI or any other technology to advance their own interests and further undermine the interests of their rivals? I think the answer is obvious, and that's why America, we've got to be tech forward. Yes, there are concerns, yes, there are risks, but we have to be leaning into the AI future with optimism and hope, because I think real technological innovation is going to make our country stronger. So deindustrialization poses risks both to our national security and our workforce. It's important because it affects both. And the net result is dispossession for many in this country of any part of the productive process. And when our factories disappear and the jobs in those factories go overseas, American workers are faced not only with financial insecurity, they're also faced with a profound loss of personal and communal identity. And so to come full circle on this tension, alleged tension between the populace and the techno-optimists, I can understand a reaction of skepticism when we talk about the revolutionary potential of new invention and artificial intelligence and all the other incredible technologies that you guys are working. But I think that tension is a little overstated. And so I'm going to come back to what's sort of dividing some of the tech optimists and the populace on our side. I think the populace, when they look at the future, and when they compare it to what's happened in the past, I think a lot of them see alienation of workers from their jobs, from their communities, from their sense of solidarity. You see the alienation of people from their sense of purpose. And importantly, they see a leadership class that believes welfare can replace a job and an application on a phone can replace a sense of purpose. Now, I remember a Silicon Valley dinner in particular back when I was in my tech days, where my wife and I were sitting around talking to some of the leaders of the important technology firms of the United States, and this was probably in 2016 or 2017. And I was talking about my real worry that we were heading in a direction where America could no longer support middle-class families working on middle-class wages. And importantly, that even if you had enough economic dynamism to provide the wealth to ensure those people could, afford to buy a house and afford their food and so forth, that even if you replaced the financial element of their jobs, you would destroy something that was dignified and purposeful about work itself. And I remember one of the tech CEOs who was there, that, CEO, you would know his name if I mentioned it. He was the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company. He said, well, I'm actually not worried about the loss of purpose when people lose their jobs. And I said, okay, well, what do you think is going to replace that sense of purpose? And he said, digital, fully immersive gaming. And then my wife texted me underneath the table and said, we have to get the hell out of here. These people are effing crazy. Now, I don't think that, of course, that CEO's views are representative of most people in this room, but when I think about a lot of the workers, based on what they've seen in the past, are very worried about the future because, frankly, their leadership has failed to serve them. And then I think about this from the perspective of a lot of the tech optimists. I think a lot of the tech optimists, they see overregulation, they see stifling innovation. I mean, you guys are builders. They are builders. And while they may sympathize with those who lost a job, they're much more frustrated that the government won't allow them to build the jobs of the future. And they know that as hard as it is to build a business in digital media, it's still harder to build one in robotics or life sciences or energy in what we call the world of atoms. They see a government that makes their lives harder, and they must trust anyone who looks to that government for aid. And what I'd propose is that each group, our workers, the populace on the one hand, the tech optimists on the other, have been failed by this government. Not just the government of the last administration, but the government in some ways of the last 40 years. Because there were two conceits that our leadership class had when it came to globalization. The first is assuming that we can separate the making of things from the design of things. The idea of globalization was that rich countries would move further up the value chain while the poor countries made the simpler things. You would open an iPhone box and it would say designed in Cupertino, California. Now the implication, of course, is that it would be manufactured in Shenzhen or somewhere else. And yeah, some people might lose their jobs in manufacturing, but they could learn to design, or to use a very popular phrase, learn to code. But I think we got it wrong. It turns out that the geographies that do the manufacturing get awfully good at the designing of things. There are network effects, as you all well understand. The firms that design products work with firms that manufacture. They share intellectual property, they share best practices, and they even sometimes share critical employees. Now, we assume that other nations would always trail us in the value chain, but it turns out that as they got better at the low end of the value chain, they also started catching up on the higher end. We were squeezed from both ends. Now, that was the first conceit of globalization. I think the second is that cheap labor is fundamentally a crutch, and it's a crutch that inhibits innovation. I might even say that it's a drug that too many American firms got addicted to. Now, if you can make a product more cheaply, it's far too easy to do that rather than to innovate. And whether we were offshoring factories to cheap labor economies or importing cheap labor through our immigration system, cheap labor became the drug of Western economies. And I'd say that if you look in nearly every country from Canada to the UK that imported large amounts of cheap labor, you've seen productivity stagnate. I don't think that's not a total happenstance. I think that the connection is very direct. Now, one of the debates you hear on the minimum wage, for instance, is that increases in the minimum wage force firms to automate. So a higher wage at McDonald's means more kiosks. And whatever your views on the wisdom of the minimum wage, I'm not going to comment on that here. Companies innovating in the absence of cheap labor is a good thing. I think most of you are not worried about getting cheaper and cheaper labor. You're worried about innovating, about building new things, about the old formulation of technology is doing more with less. You guys are all trying to do more with less every single day. And so I'd ask my friends, both on the tech optimist side and on the populist side, not to see the failure of the logic of globalization as a failure of innovation. Indeed, I'd say that globalization's hunger for cheap labor is a problem precisely because it's been bad for innovation. Both our working people, our populists, and our innovators gathered here today have the same enemy. And the solution, I believe, is American innovation. Because in the long run, it's technology that increases the value of labor. Innovations like the American system and the interchangeable parts revolution it sparked, or Ford's moving assembly line that skyrocketed the productivity of our workers. That's how American industry became the envy of the world. And that's what I really want to talk about today, why innovation is key to winning the worldwide manufacturing competition, to giving our workers a fair deal, and to reclaiming our heritage via America's great industrial comeback. And I believe that's what we're on the cusp of, a great American industrial comeback. Because innovation is what increases wages. It's what protects our homelands, and I know we have a lot of defense technology companies here. It's what saves troops' lives on the battlefield. And I know everyone here today largely agrees. It's why we have some of the greatest inventors and thinkers in energy, precision machining, countless critical high-value industries just in this room. And I think the other thing that unites all of you is that you're builders. And I use that word deliberately. I was very moved by Mark's manifesto from a few years ago about America. We are a nation of builders. We make things. We create things. Each of you came to this summit not because you developed some flash-in-the-pan application, but because you're building something very real. You're raising new factories, you're turning profits back into R&D, and you're creating new, good-paying jobs for your fellow Americans. And this is why I'm such huge fans of yours, of Ben's and Mark's, and of the entire endeavor. And that we recognize now in our administration is the time to align our work interests with those of all of you. It's time to align the interests of our technology firms with the interests of the United States of America writ large. Now, all of you, in your own ways, have answered that call. After all, there's nothing forcing anyone to be in the room today. Each one of you could have set up headquarters in Southeast Asia or China, I'm sure, and you would have done quite well for yourselves financially. But you're here I hope because you love your country, you love its people, and the opportunities that it's given you, and you recognize that building things, our capacity to create new innovation in the economy, cannot be a race to the bottom. Now, America's not going to win the future by ditching child labor laws or paying our workers less than Chinese or Vietnamese laborers. We don't want that, and it's not on the table. We can only win by doing what we always did, protecting our workers and supporting our innovators, and doing both of those things at the same time. And so, I want to talk a little specifics here. The Trump administration's great plan for staging the great American manufacturing comeback is simple. You're making interesting new things here in America? Great. Then we're going to cut your taxes, we're going to slash regulations, we're going to reduce the cost of energy so that you can build. Our goal is to incentivize investment in our own borders, in our own businesses, our own workers, and our own innovation. We don't want people seeking cheap labor. We want them investing and building right here in the United States of America. And so if you'll allow it, I'd like to talk about a few ways that the Trump administration is already pursuing a pro-innovation economy that allows our workers to thrive and our companies to outcompete their foreign peers. In short, an economy that is vibrantly America first, that serves Americans from all walks of life and of every kind. Now, first, President Trump is starting with, and is dead serious, about rearranging our trade and tariff regime internationally. We believe that tariffs are a necessary tool to protect our jobs and our industries from other countries, as well as the labor value of our workers in a globalized market. In fact, combined with the right technology, they allow us to bring jobs back to the United States of America and create the jobs of the future. Just look in the past few months at the auto industry as an important example. When you erect a tariff wall around a critical industry like auto manufacturing, and you combine that with advanced robotics and lower energy costs and other tools that increase the productivity of U.S. labor, you give American workers a multiplying effect. Now that, in turn, allows firms to make things here at a price-competitive basis. Our president gets that, which is why last month we posted 9,000 new auto jobs after many, many years of stagnation or even decline in the auto sector. It's why, just weeks in, we already have new plant or production announcements from Honda, from Hyundai, and Stellantis worth billions of dollars and thousands of additional jobs on top of the ones that were already created. Now, this takes work. It took, in the president's first term, the president ripping up NAFTA and creating a new U.S. deal for American manufacturers in North America. But there's important work, and we're going to do it. Now, Second, all of this is why the president is approaching the issue of illegal immigration as aggressively as he has, because he knows that cheap labor cannot be used as a substitute for the productivity gains that come with economic innovation. And so we've cracked down on illegal immigration at the border, where the results speak for themselves. Last month, migrant crossings were down 94% to their lowest number all time, and that happened just in 2 months of serious border enforcement. Thanks to President Trump's leadership, last month, for the first time in over a year, the majority of job gains went to American citizens born on U.S. soil, and that's important. For the first time in over a year, the majority of job creation actually went to American citizens. The third, this administration is focused on reducing our input costs for our manufacturers and for everybody else. Achieving energy abundance, and I know Doug Burgum was here earlier, will be here later, is top of mind. Because when we look at some of the most exciting applications of new technologies, we realize it's going to take a lot of power to keep them running. And we're thrilled to have our friends from the United Arab Emirates, a number of the business leaders and government leaders in town this week for meetings with our government. And one of the things they consistently hammer upon is something that unfortunately too few of our European allies tend to get, is that if you want to lead in artificial intelligence, you have got to be leading in energy production. So we are going to set the pace there, and we are going to lead from the front. Now, we are already seeing, the good news is, signs of progress, even just a couple of months in. Gas and diesel prices are dropping, the cost of a barrel of U.S. crude is way down, and last Wednesday, the administration took major steps to make energy even cheaper and liberate our companies from stifling environmental regulations. Now, that is great, but of course, there's a lot more work we have to do over the next 4 years. Getting the tax bill right is especially critical for all of you and for all of your workers. We know how important it is to restore 100% bonus depreciation for capital investments, as well as full expensing for R&D. Again, we want people to invest in America, and we're going to make sure the tax code reflects that. In order to build on the success of the original tax law, meaning the tax law from the President's first administration, our administration is working to broaden some provisions that are critical to the industrial base, like expanding full expensing to cover factory construction. For business owners, including manufacturers, making the 2017 tax cuts permanent will provide further confidence and predictability to invest in new technology and equipment, hire more American workers, and grow all of your businesses. And we have a lot more to do, but the country is already starting to see the payoff of this administration's bold economic agenda. For producers and consumers alike, inflation is finally starting to come down. Core CPI last week dropped to its lowest number since April of 2021. And when it comes to the labor market, last month's jobs report showed a massive reversal. 10,000 new manufacturing jobs created, where the previous year we had lost over 100,000 manufacturing jobs. As you may have heard the President say, in less than 2 months since he took office, he's already secured more than $1.7 trillion in new investments across the United States. That's hundreds of thousands of new jobs in manufacturing, AI, other hard tech sectors, and more. So we think there's a lot to be excited about. There's a lot that we're excited about, and we certainly hope that you guys are excited too. But the fundamental premise, the fundamental goal of President Trump's economic policy is, I think, to undo 40 years of failed economic policy in this country. For far too long, we got addicted to cheap labor, both overseas and by importing it into our own country, and we got lazy. We overregulated our industries instead of supporting them. We overtaxed our innovators instead of making it easier for them to build their great companies. And we made it way too hard to build things and invest things in the United States of America. That stopped 2 months ago, and it will continue to stop, and will continue to fight for American workers and the American businesses that hire them and that support them. So I want to thank you all for two things. Number one, I want to thank you all for doing what you do. Again, you could have chosen the easy path. Every single person in this room, as the President would say, you're all very high IQ. You're some of the most talented people in the United States of America. You chose to build a business right here in the United States of America, and for that I'm grateful. But the second thing I want to say is that I think you're not just building your own business. I think that you are part of a great American industrial renaissance. Whether it's the war of the future, the jobs of the future, the economic prosperity of the future, we believe that we must build it right here in the United States of America. So thank you all for building. Thank you all for building in America. And thank you all for building the kind of society that I want to raise my children in. God bless you all. Thanks for having me.
And that is Vice President J.D. Vance, again, really detailing that deep belief system and the fact that the tech advancements and the technology that we are going through as we grow, we don't have to be afraid of. We don't have to be afraid of AI. We don't have to be afraid of the future. And the populist movement will be right there to usher that in and help that out. So I liked how Vice President Vance really went through all of that to detail how important that is for the American people. And the words of Laborum Exercens, of course, from John Paul II, talking about the dignity of work, how important that is in the everyday salvation for people who want to, be faithful, working towards those great goals. So that was really an extraordinary speech on the part of the Vice President, J.D. Vance. Thank you to our wonderful sponsors here at Right Side Broadcasting Network Live, Colonial Metals Group. Of course, this is your go-to guide, a free, no-obligation guide, exclusive here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. Just scan that QR code or go to freegoldguide.com/RSBN. Gold is up over 840% since the year 2000, up over 7,000% since 1971. So something to check out today. Colonial Metals Group, led by the great Paul Stone, the CEO, who's on here on a regular basis on the show, talking about shielding your savings today. freegoldguide.com/RSBN. Scan the QR code there right now. How about the wonderful MyPillow.com/RSBN? We love Mike Lindell. All he does for freedom of speech, all he does for the Constitution, those great documents, and election integrity. This is a man for the MAGA ages, and he has a mega sale going on right now with the My Cross, 30% off. Or how about the My Towels, a 6-towel pack set for you, $29.98, or those flannel sheets, $44.98. Just give them a call today, 800-836-7566, with nearly 2,000 different items on the website, up to 80% off. Thank you to Mr. Mike Lindell. Promo code RSBN, that is mypillow.com/RSBN. How about the Trump book, The Kid's Guide to American Greatness? Did I mention what's amazing about this? It's free, but at freetrumpbook.com, this great team brought to you by Ambassador Mike Huckabee, they detail liberty and justice for all and these timeless values that kids will love to learn about. Strong foundations, the melting pot of America. How about the civil rights movement and women's suffrage? Incredible stuff to learn about for the young patriot at your home or that friend next door who just seems to have their head in the sand. freetrumpbook.com. Get ahead on that Christmas shopping. And right now you'll get a bunch of these free guides and a free Christmas ornament as well. So that free Trump gift for your kids at home, freetrumpbook.com. Angelpaste.com, a great miracle cream, but they don't only just have that, which can take your dry hands into being glowing and refreshed, all natural, non-GMO, no chemicals, an amazing product here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, but they have a great line of orange immunity boosters and also natural mosquito repellents. They also have this acid face cream that kind of sounds scary, but it's good for the guys. So for men and women, great products, angelpaste.com, Christian owned, and also hiring veterans. They are outstanding right outside of Spring, Texas, of course, along that Gulf of America, angelpaste.com. Thank you for sponsoring us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and of course, the MAGA, the mega, the amazing Trump plane. I have one of these items at home myself, but at patriotaddictdeals.com, they just brought back a limited edition, roughly 100 of them. So claim your 20% off now using code RSBN20. That's RSBN20. Get your limited edition Trump Force One airplane. This is great in the foyer. This is great on the desk in your MAGA office or in your MAGA man cave. So you're going to want this. PatriotAddictDeals.com. And not just for the guys, I mean for the ladies too. It is a nice, lovely decor for any table in your home. PatriotAddictDeals.com. Claim your 20% off now using code RSBN20, and you will get that beautiful Trump Force One. And when I was coming back to, en route to Auburn, but by the way of JBA, the Joint Base Andrews in D.C., I did see on the tarmac at Palm Beach International, Trump Force One is just waiting as Air Force One takes the president all over. Of course, if he would get back on Trump Force One, that would then become Air Force One, because it does not get that call sign until he's on board. So it was nice to see that plane that has been carrying him from rally to rally to rally over the course of the last couple of years, just sitting and resting at Palm Beach International Airport. So get your exclusive replica here at Right Side Broadcasting Network Live. And for all the America First updates and exclusive offers, of course, go to rsbnetwork.com/newsletter. I will post the newsletter from our time with the president on the plane. Great writers here on Right Side Broadcasting Network Live. It is extraordinary to have them really narrating the written word as well. So if you're not able to tune into a broadcast, perhaps you can just look online and get some of that reading done over your lunch hour or during your workday as well. But really, that is a great way to keep up with everything America First. rsbnetwork.com/newsletter. And if you're so moved, because we are citizen journalists here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, a live desk committed to you, bringing you unbridled access to President Trump, Vice President Vance, the 119th Congress, and also stories inside and outside the Beltway. If you can, please feel free to donate at rsbnetwork.com/donate, or you can text RSBN to 801-801. That is RSBN to 801-801. We'd be honored to have you do that, and thank you so much for doing that to help us here at the network to bring you this great coverage of everything America First. And what a day it is to be alive this March 18th, a Tuesday, a beautiful day in the United States. Of course, our thoughts and prayers still with those who are reeling from the storms over the last few days. 40 lives lost. We pray for them, their family members, but also anyone who's experienced this, to lose your home, to lose your property. It feels like a violation, and that you really can't have any control over it because it is Mother Nature at the end of the day. And we turn to God for solace and help in such a difficult time. But also, when these things happen, I'm always moved by the generosity of the volunteers to not only come in and help, but to financially give if necessary. So be careful out there as we are in some of that wintry mixed with the spring season, as that transitions with that hot and cold air and that collides, that can be really dangerous. So be mindful of that and take those evacuation calls seriously when those things do come about. But our thoughts and prayers with those suffering over the last couple of days. But it was awesome to see the Vice President, J.D. Vance, today at the American Dynamism Summit, stating that the populist movement and the tech, really Wild West tech initiatives that are happening, and I say Wild West because we have that spirit in America of discovery, of going out there to the last frontier, to the final frontier. Nothing will keep us away from discovering for the betterment of humanity. Imagine the last 250 years without America. It would be a much different world, a sadder world, perhaps a world not as advanced as it is today, because freedom, the constitutional Republican governance that we have, and the ideals of enlightenment, and the fact that God grants you the natural order and law, that is what has made this amazing country into what it is over the course of nearly 250 years now. And we here at Right Side Broadcasting Network are committed to making that reality known and celebrated every single day here as we cover your favorite president and his administration. Also, a programming note. If you have an America First story, or if there's something you'd like us to know, we'd like to cover different things where we can be your voice out there for the hopeless. We are the voice for the voiceless here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. Feedback at rsbn.tv. Again, send your story into feedback at rsbn.tv. It comes across our channels. We read all of these messages you send in to us. If you have any suggestions, or if you have that story that might be America First and you want us to know about, please feel free to reach out there. And stick with us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network for any breaking news throughout the day or evening. It is an exciting time again this Tuesday, the day after St. Patrick's Day. I hope you had an opportunity to celebrate with your loved ones at home. And Mr. Director, do we need to cover anything else before wrapping up this morning? Fantastic. Well, stick with us here again at Right Side Broadcasting Network Live, as it's almost 10 o'clock Eastern, right at that beautiful White House, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. My goodness, I might have to reach out to the Taoiseach of Ireland, the wonderful Prime Minister Michael Martin, because
that green that's left on the ground there is just extraordinary. It's almost if he gave it that Irish kiss necessary. Of course, we had Colin McGregor there as well, visiting President Trump just yesterday. Well, stick with us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network Live as we sign off this morning. But for any breaking news, we will be here as your live desk, as your go-to for America First. For everyone here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, I'm Robert McNeely. Always a joy to be with you. Good day, God bless, and we'll see you soon.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat live show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
I hear every day about the products you all wish MyPillow carried. Well, guess what? We probably do. Slippers, bathrobes, pet beds, blankets, mattresses, sleepwear, loungewear, duvets, comforters, pot holders, aprons, oven mitts, and so much more. And they're all on sale. For example, get our best-selling standard MyPillows for only $14.98. Body pillows, $29.98. 6-piece bath towels or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase, $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bedsheet sets. Any size, any color, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And I've never done this before. When you spend $100 or more, you're going to get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.